All right, guys, so today I want to tell you about how important it is to build up your fluency as a muscle when you want to become a high-ticket closer, a successful high-ticket closer in the US market, okay? The first thing I want to tell you about this idea that a lot of international closers have, which is that in order to become a really successful closer, you need to be a native English speaker, which is not true. I know a lot of international closers that speak English as a second language that are actually way better than a lot of other native English speaker closers that I also know, which basically prevents them from becoming that best version that they're looking for. Now, the thing is, this is something that you can actually train. You know, it's not the fact that you are raised in the culture, which of course, the more exposure that you have to the US culture, the easier it's going to get for you to build up the connection. But there are specifically two skills that you need to build like a muscle, like as if you were working out at the gym in order to become that person, because you're still not that person. That's why you're here. Okay, so those two skills are really simple. It's rapid listening and verbal fluency. Now, the thing is, rapid listening is the ability to actually listen and understand at different paces, because basically real life, you're going to find prospects that speak slower, and also you're going to find prospects that speak way faster, depending on the kind of emotional struggle that they're going through and the kind of excitements that they're feeling at that moment. And also, I want you to forget about this crazy idea about the fact that grammar is like the most important thing in order for you to land that kind of security that you want to push forward on sales calls. That doesn't work like that, because basically perfect grammar isn't enough at all. It's all about the connection. And the connection is about the ability to listen to the details and to move further into the conversation as you provide every single solution the way that the prospect is expecting from you, okay? Now, let's talk about a hypothetical situation, okay, so that you can understand. Let's imagine you have Sarah and you have Carlos, right? So let's say Sarah has a perfect grammar, but Carlos, he has more like average grammar, but then he has a huge ability to create real human connection. Also, Carlos has a lot of hesitations about grammar. But the problem with this is that, of course, Carlos is gonna be better at creating during the discovery phase to create that connection. But also, grammar is also important. Now, of course, there's gonna be like a base level, which is necessary because, if you cannot even basically express your ideas clearly and articulately, then there's gonna be mental delays. There's going to be awkward silences. So this is going to be obviously a mess in the end. So you need to be able to have a base level of understanding of grammar and the use of grammar, and a base level of being able to listen through a conversation. Let's talk about, why native speakers use also incomplete grammar in any case, because you don't need to have perfect grammar all the time, because language is fluid and you can just move back and forth in a conversation, and maybe you can use improper grammar if you want to sound more informal. So there's a lot of cases where it doesn't have to be perfect, okay? Also, if you use too perfect grammar, you sound robotic. So that's something that you need to be watching out for, because the last thing you want to do is show up on a call and sound like a robot. And also it creates sort of a psychological distance that's going to prevent you from building up the trust that you need in order to move forward. Also, a couple of things that this could create as side effects is that the fact that it's just going to slow you down on your objection handling phases. So if you want to handle objections, you are all the time overthinking your ability to reproduce the perfect grammar, then you're going to actually freeze and you're going to create this lag on your objection handling phase, because you're going to be obsessed and overthinking about your next word and your next phrase. And also you risk losing momentum too, because when you are overthinking, you are more concerned about your ability to deliver the perfect sentence, then you're going to lose the momentum, meaning that, in a situation where you already build a good enough amount of trust with the prospect, but then you really sounding awkward because you start thinking too much about your structures in the sentences, then you're going to lose that. That's going to slow you down, and you're going to basically get to a halt in your advancement into closing the deal. Of course, the end of the finish line is to be able to provide the help that the prospect needs. But in order to do that, you need to build up the trust and you need to build up the confidence in the prospect's mind that you are the expert. But if you lose the momentum, that goes down the drain. Let's talk about the speed, because this is something that I see a lot of times. Is a lot of people they just learn English through schools, through language schools, through an academic backgrounds, right? So the problem with that is, you get exposed to this kind of very systematic and really like a template situation where that is not really real. So you want to be exposed to many hours of sales calls on YouTube. And basically YouTube is the best way. You can find maybe other sites or maybe through courses and other ways, maybe just downloading free magnets from other people that sell high-ticket course programs and things like that. But basically you want to be exposed to as many hours of actual real sales calls from different industries. It doesn't matter the industry, because in the end, it's all about how you handle yourself and how the structure is presented in front of you, so that you can see how native English speakers do it and how not only native speakers but also good closers do it. So that's the way that you need to be exposed to the language. And so you will notice very fast that a lot of closers speak very fast and a lot of prospects speak very fast. So you need to be able to understand these in different situations. You need to be ready in case you find that on an actual sales call. Now, another thing is blended speech. When you speak faster, you basically compress the speech and you blend the sounds. This is also called connected speech. Okay, so if you don't understand what's happening is when you start making pre-assumptions, because you start obsessing and overthinking about your ability to deliver the message. So basically that could create assumptions on what the prospect needs or what the prospect wants or what the prospect is actually expecting from you. So this creates a gap. This could actually derail the responses. This could actually get you in trouble because you might end up saying things that the prospect doesn't need or doesn't want to hear. All of these things, if you don't really understand the words and you understand the phrases in different situations and different contexts, then you could create awkward pauses, and this could break the report. Okay, you want to shoot for instant responses every single time, because that's what's going to signal the confidence that you're looking for. Now, let's talk about these two different types of listening, because listening is not always the same. You can listen and you can understand the words, but there's a difference between surface level listening and another thing is to hear the emotions. And this is key on sales. When you really understand every single word and every single sentence in context, then you go a layer deeper into understanding what the prospect is feeling. And this is where you want to be, because when you understand how the prospect is feeling, then you can actually respond back with actual helpful information, the way that the prospect wants you to deliver that information, right? So you want to be watching for prospects from the UK, from Australia, from the US, from Canada, because the fact that you are delivering sales calls in English doesn't mean that your prospects are going to be native English speakers the whole time. You could get someone who is German. It just happens that the language that you communicate with is English. So you need to be able to watch out for these different nuances in the cultural background and the way that they express ideas and the kind of expectations that they might have, so that you can provide the best delivery when you are on the sales call, right? Also, you need to be able to work on these first impressions that you actually deliver on the sales call, because those first 10 seconds or so is going to be really the killer part on the sales call, because that's what the prospects are going to judge from the get-go. And remember that prospects are making micro decisions every single time. The fact that this kind of impression that you could deliver on these first few seconds is actually going to make the prospect categorize you as an insider or as an outsider, meaning as someone who knows what they're talking about or as someone who can provide the solution that they're looking for. There's a lot of things that you can be paying attention to on this phase, which is the rhythm, the intonation, the stress patterns, and also watch out for pronunciation errors, because you don't want to be making mistakes every other sentence. Doubts about language also could very easily become doubts about your expertise. So this is like the double-edged sword that I was telling you about, because it's very easy to confuse from the prospect's eyes. It's very easy to confuse your ability to speak English properly and to be like someone who's really confident with the language with someone that's really confident with the delivery of the service, or someone that could fix the issue that they have going on. So this is very hand in hand. This goes hand in hand a lot of the time. So that's why you need to work on your confidence and your language skills in tandem, all together, in parallel. And then this also goes hand in hand in your mind, not only on the prospect's mind, but in your mind. Your level to speak English fluently is also going to push you forward in basically becoming more confident in selling the product and explaining everything about the products, bridging the gap between where the prospect is at the moment and where he wants to be in the future, right? So it's very easy to become discouraged when you are making a lot of mistakes over and over again. So that's why I'm telling you, you should really spend time watching yourself making mistakes and thinking about the mistakes that you're making so that you can make them less, right? So this is really, really important. I mean, I cannot stress this enough, guys, because I have seen this happen over and over again. I've had hundreds of students, not only closers, all kinds of people. This is basically a pattern. It's just the way life works, is the way language learning works. The most successful English language learners that I've seen, and the most successful high-ticket closers, international high-ticket closers that I've seen, are the ones that actually take this to heart and implement this. So they actually spend many, many hours watching content, videos specifically, and podcasts, and then they prepare maybe presentations, or they train themselves with role plays, trying to use different expressions the same way that they see on the videos, and then they watch themselves provide different solutions and different suggestions, and then they look at themselves, they watch themselves make the mistakes over and over again on the recorded videos, and they take notes from their own mistakes, so that next time when they actually record themselves again in a different situation, of course they keep making some mistakes, but they make way less mistakes. So this is the way it works, guys. So this needs to be like like the gym. Like, just go, today I'm gonna do back and biceps, tomorrow I'm gonna do chest and triceps, whatever, and Friday I'm gonna do leg day. So this English works in the same way. On Mondays I'm gonna be watching a few sales calls, on Tuesday I'm gonna be reviewing those sales calls and taking notes, and on Friday I'm gonna be trying to make another implementing all the different things that I have learned from the mistakes that I made on Tuesday, and then I'm going to make another attempt for this. And then next week you just repeat. You do the same thing, but you correct the mistakes that you have been observing about yourself. Stress placement mistakes really kill credibility a lot. So you need to be able to really spot your ability to express and pronounce and utter the words with the right stress. Because, if you start, maybe you could have the right syllable pronunciation, but then stress makes a big difference, guys. And then vocabulary doesn't matter if it's not understood. You could read a lot of books and so that you can build up a huge amount of vocabulary in your head. But if you don't pronounce those words right, then you're going to lose the credibility that you're trying to build. So, you need to be watching out for this. It's just checking out, as many sales words and terms and key phrases that you see that are like the most recurring ones. I will give you a list here on this program too, so that you can actually be exposed to them and get familiar with them as much as possible, so that you can actually just use them freely without really having to overthink too much. If you make too many mistakes and you start overthinking too much about the next word, this could create basically a cognitive fatigue, which could make your leads disinterested in you, right? And in the product that you have to offer. I just want to tie this all down into emotion, into the emotional frequency that you're trying to build. You always need to be listening for emotional undertones. This is like a step-by-step thing. You need to build up the blocks to get to the top, right? So you need to understand the problem, and then once you understand the problem, you want to maybe get to listen to the emotional side of things in the prospect's mind. But in the end, it all comes down to emotions, because when you understand the deeper emotions that the prospect is going through, then you can build up the perfect way to deliver the solution. You want to be able to watch for these different energy shifts in emotional signals so that you can see where you are in the sales call. If you hear a flat tone, then that means that the prospect is not interested. But maybe if you hear a rising tone, then this could be a signal of excitement or fear, depending on the context. You can use AI role plays. You can use Google AI Studio. You can use ChatGPT. You can use Gemini. You can use Grok. You can use Claude. There are so many different AI systems and LLMs that you can use to actually practice with the voice mode. And also, you should be looking on your own to look for people that are looking to do these role plays, because it's all a matter of practice and get the reps in. That's what you need to remember. Let's talk about the emotional mirroring, which builds the report. So you want to be looking out for the way that the prospect is reacting to the information that you're providing, right? So a lot of closers, they have a script, right? Say, okay, you got to say this, but you need to be smart here, because not all prospects react to the same way to the scripts or to the information. So you need to come up with different ways to react to their reactions. Depending on the offer and on the kind of prospect profile that you're going to find, then you want to be building like a sort of like a playbook of reactions and a playbook of different deliveries so that you can provide the information exactly in the best way that the prospect expects, depending on the prospect profile. Something that I see is that there are different skills that you need to develop in order to become better with your English and with your sales. The main 6 things that you need to be focusing on is your confidence, your accent, clarity, your grammar, automation, so meaning your ability to really not think about grammar, but just use the language freely so that you don't have to overthink about the next word or the next phrase. Then your active vocabulary, so building up a good enough vocabulary in your head so that you can actually sound more free and more confident about everything that you're saying. And then your listening comprehension and your speaking experience. If you actually can work in tandem with these 6 different skills, and you want to target the weakest spots that you have, then you can, I'm telling you, you will be the top 5% international closer in way less time than you think. And you want to work in synergy between all these 6 skills. And basically, the bottom line here is that language is really a sales tool. If you want to become a sales expert in the US, English fluency is the highest return on investment that you can make.